Claire, I want to start with benefits, because we were just talking to Mike Simmons from The Spectator. I love that. So, I mean, certainly if you're watching, the mainstream media, BBC and Sky and ITV, the focus as always on these benefit stories, and this is why the Tories didn't do a lot of this. It's why Labour is so wary of it and are preparing the ground for it. £5 billion in cuts to the disability benefits, given up on this idea of a freeze, making it harder for you to get on it in the first place, saying that people under the age of 22 shouldn't be able to be on this and basically be written off for life already. What's not to like, I would say. I don't think it'll work. I don't think they'll even achieve the $5 billion in cuts that they say they'll achieve. People will find a way around the system. I don't think they're going to get loads of people in for reassessments. I don't think they're going to be able to do them in person. I think the whole thing is an absolute charade, but it's about making the numbers look good ahead of the spring statement next week. And either way, even if it did work, it wouldn't be going far enough, because we are in crisis, not just economically, but demographically. And I just think, morally, I suppose, is a fair word in our country, in terms of the relationship and the deal between the state and other taxpayers and ourselves and our children, and our expectations about, well, what we're supposed to contribute and what our duties are as citizens in this country. I was raised, and it just... That Marxist idea, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. Yeah, everyone's forgot about the first bit, okay? Yeah. And it seems to me that we are in a very, very difficult state, and no one in public life is actually gripping this problem by the horns.
No, they're not. And when you look at young people, how can we allow millions of young people to finish school and then just sit there and expect the state to pick up the tab?
Let's talk about parenting.
That's going to be my point, because you certainly wouldn't allow your daughter to sit around not doing anything. I wouldn't allow my son
I'd change the locks.
Sit around.
I'm quite serious. I'd change the locks.
Yeah,
off you go.
You want something, you have to work for it. And whilst I will look after him until such times as he can look after himself, and I will always be there, but he wants things, he's going to have to earn the money to buy them.
But that's actually being a loving, responsible parent. Part of our job is, to love our children, look after them, care for them. Yes, help them clean their teeth and all that stuff, healthy diet things. But it's also about raising them with decent morals, and it's about raising them to be responsible citizens. And again, look, I've got friends who are going through the trauma of having children, who are really psychologically, traumatised by... lockdown really hit a lot of kids who were otherwise fine. Yeah. And exacerbated problems for a lot of kids who were already having problems. And, there, but for the grace of God, we don't have children in that situation. But I'm very sympathetic to people who do. Do I think that the solution to that is to write those children off for life with PIP payments? No. Absolutely not. I would say that is immoral to do. Yeah. Not just for the child, but for society at large.
Yeah, it is. And don't dumb down education either, because you want these people to strive. You want young people to grow up and be purposeful and be taxpayers of the future.
Yeah.
Don't dumb down the exams. Don't say it's all right to sit around in the garden in the sunshine and not work.
Except we did. We kind of did say that for quite a long time, didn't we?
And we have to reverse that. We have to now start being a little bit strict with our kids. There's a shock. Actually tell them to get up and get out of bed.
You say we, but most of us have been doing that. And again, the parents who don't do that, but our kids are then going to be paying for their kids. Yeah. I do just find it extraordinary that we have 9 million economically inactive people in the working age between 16 and 64. 9 million. We've got 13 million pensioners, and we've got just 27 million private sector workers. We've also got 6 million public sector workers, and although they work and they pay taxes as well, nevertheless their wages are being paid by the taxes of the private sector workers. So you've got basically 27 million people working in the private sector supporting all these other people. The numbers don't add up. The numbers simply, it's not tenable now. It ain't going to be tenable in 5 years, in 10 years, 30 isn't going to be tenable in 50 years. And when with the demographic changes we've got, people having fewer kids, we are going to be in absolute dire straits. People have to wake up to this, like dealing with social care, dealing with pension reform, dealing with the demographic issues, dealing with benefits reform, dealing with how much we spend on defence. All these things, our political leaders and our world-class civil service, they have just completely and utterly failed to do their job for the last 20 years, 30 years even.
Yeah, and I think the Labour government have now just backed themselves into a corner by saying that they're not going to raise the 3 main taxes on individuals.
Yeah.
Well, where's the money coming from?
Yeah, exactly. Those are actually the fairest ways of doing things.
Sorry, that's the fairest way.
Well,
of
again,
doing
also,
it.
if you want benefits like you could get in France or Germany, that's fine. But you know what? They do actually pay much higher taxes.
Yes.
The average person, an average earner in France or Germany or Sweden, they pay much higher taxes than we do. That is part of the deal. And again, we're told, the people on the left yesterday, the MPs talking about a wealth tax and 1% wealth tax. Yeah, well, again, a lot of that wealth often it's not sitting in a bank account. It's a property that someone owns. But you know what? You can do that. And every country that has tried it has dropped it within a few years because they actually make less money than the money they lose from all the people who go, adios then. Because the funny thing about wealthy people is they're really, really mobile and they just move to another country.
Well, they will do. Of course they will. If they're going to protect their assets, they'll just go.
But also, those people have already paid a lot of tax.
Yes.
Is it the
not
top
as if
1% pay 29% of all tax in this country?
Yeah, but
I think
people
we're
like to
asking.
forget
I
it.
think they're paying enough. I don't think we're going to be able to get any more out of them.
But it's a really easy argument for those on the left, is a wealth tax.
Evil
And then-
poor.
Absolutely, and that's what they do, and they sort of wring their hands together and say, well, what about the poor children? What about the pensioners?
Yeah.
What, the ones you've just hit with winter fuel allowance cuts?
Yeah,
Those ones.
That's the thing. In terms of Labour voters, and we can see that massive plummet. I mean, there's a lot fewer votes for Labour than Labour were expecting from the polls on the day. A lot of people going, you know what, I can't do this. We went down to 34%. They plummeted down. Sometimes you've got Reform ahead of them in the polls, still ahead of the Tories, admittedly. But, not looking very good. I mean, Keir Starmer's had a little bit of a bump from his performance on the world stage, and I've been quite impressed with his how he's handled Donald Trump as well. I think he's walked a very, very difficult tightrope on that front. But at the end of the day, I predicted wrongly, I would say, that Keir Starmer, they wouldn't actually have the money to do a lot of the things they wanted to do. They'd end up doing a lot of things that would upset people on the right far more, but also they wouldn't please people on the left. But actually, they've ended up pleasing no one at all.
Yes, it's been quite fascinating that they've managed to come down on the wrong side of practically every argument.
Yeah. It's almost
And
like they're really rubbish at government.
Do you think? Do you think they put all of that effort
And
into
my God, that
winning
was
an
a low
election?
bar after your lot.
We
Come
can
on.
be better. We will rebuild. Just putting it out there.
So
Don't
did you
write
read
us
that from
off.
your phone? Did you read that?
What do you think? I've got a message.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because again, the benefits from. I think we had lots of people getting in touch in the last week when we were discussing this, saying, I've got this problem, or my family's got members got this problem. We need the benefits. Like, well, no one's asking to take it away from you, and we need a very good appeals process if people are unable to get it. But I mean, the fact that 1 in 6 cars in this country that's currently sold, new cars, is on the Motability scheme. I'm just why do you need a new car? Why do you need? I've never owned a new car in my life. I don't understand why you'd need. Why does it need to be replaced every 3 years? I don't replace my car every 3 years. I just find these things like, what? I'm sorry, it's not a company car. Yeah, I'm sorry, no, but you replace it. You might replace your car, but I mean, people have got jobs where that car is absolutely the number one. I mean, I barely use mine, so I don't need to. But it's no, but there's just things like you're not entitled to that stuff. I don't get I don't understand who came up with this stuff and why they thought the taxpayers should be funding it.
No, I mean,
It's clearly a scam.
I think there are people that it works for, but I don't think that you need top of the range, high class cars.
No, exactly. You don't need a BMW.
No, I mean, I'd like to have a Mercedes, I'd like to have a Jaguar, I'd like to have a BMW, but I don't have one because I can't afford it. I might chop my car in every 3 years, but that's my choice and I pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. You can do whatever you want. You can change your car every week if you want. Have a box fresh car as well as box fresh trainers. I don't care as long as I'm not being asked to pay for it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Get in touch, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk more about Ukraine. Talked to Bill Browder a little bit earlier. And again, a man who knows Vladimir Putin. He knows what he's like. It seems to me this key issue with, as he pointed out, this phone call, I mean, absolute and utter humiliation for Donald Trump that Putin kept him waiting, kept his own advisor. The fact that he kept Waltz, his advisor, his emissary, effectively waiting for 8 hours last week, that alone was 2 fingers up to Donald Trump. Vladimir Putin just keeps basically saying, yeah, I'm not moving. These are my red lines. And basically Trump keeps giving more and more and more away and comes back and says, oh, that was a really successful, productive phone call. He's got absolutely nothing out of it at all of any use, apart from a possible US-Russian hockey match. Even the prisoner exchange was going to happen anyway. These happen regularly anyway. Do you think the main issue here is that Vladimir Putin is a wily, cunning ex-KGB fox, and that Donald Trump thinks he's much cleverer than he actually is.
I think that's a fair assessment. I really do. I mean, Putin, I dislike the man intensely. He is a dictator.
He's a murderer.
He's very clever. And his whole KGB background leads him to be very wily, to be very sort of under the radar at a lot of things. He just gets
he reads people. He can clearly read people. Do you remember when Nigel Farage was attacked for saying that he, he's saying he admired Nigel, he admired Vladimir Putin, but again, he was very clear. The full sentence was, obviously I don't agree with him on anything, but I admire him in terms of his ability to get his way, in terms of the way that he worked his way around all the, the pussyfooting Western democratic leaders. He admired him, and he was making a perfectly fair point. I'm in awe of how he operates. I despise the man. I think he is genuinely somebody, if you had the opportunity to assassinate him, you would be immoral not to take that opportunity. He is a murderer. He's an awful. I wouldn't even say evil. I think he's a psychopath. He has no interest or understanding of other people existing or their needs, or he could not care less. 900,000 Russian young men to the slaughter, maimed for life. He cares not a jot.
Yeah.
But when you're up against someone like that, you need to know how to deal with someone like that.
You do.
I don't think you can reason with him. This is like someone trying to start a fight with you in the pub on a Saturday night. There are people you can reason with, and there are people that you just need to grab a bottle and hold your own with.
Yeah, absolutely. And when somebody is as unapologetic as Putin is, he just sort of shrug his shoulders and walk off in a different direction. And it's interesting that he sees peacekeepers, boots on the ground, as being an act of aggression.
Yeah.
But didn't consider invading a country
to be an act of aggression. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there you go. Exactly. I was with my production team looking at me like, have you never been in a broken bottle fight? You guys haven't lived. I've been going to the wrong places over the years. Anyway. On another note, I do want to hear from you on that as well. 0344 499 1000. Let's also talk about ministers that are going to be forcing firms, we understand, to reveal their ethnicity pay gap. This after the gender pay gap. Again, I've always been opposed to that as well. Was it Ryanair had a terrible gender pay gap because lots of their pilots who are highly paid because they're highly skilled, were on much higher pay than most of their cabin crew who were women, who are not as lovely as they are and as hard as that job is, not necessarily highly skilled in the same way a pilot is. I'm just hoping I get good service on my next flight. But I mean, that's not sexism. That's just facts. Those pilot jobs are just as open to the women. Now, do we genuinely believe that there are jobs right now which are not being given to black or Asian or any other ethnic minority in this country people because of the colour of their skin?
I think that they will be rare cases.
I mean, there are still some races, let's not pretend there aren't.
Yeah, and there will be cases where that is very much in evidence, but I don't think that this is for the majority at all, and I don't see why we need to force businesses, especially private businesses, to
hire
fess up their details and hire certain people that the government of the day seems fit to tell
especially
them.
what I find really, really fascinating is, again, people talk about absolute nonsense on the gender pay gap. They talk about, women only earn 75%. That's rubbish. That's if you're comparing women who work part-time after having kids. It's a mother pay gap, actually, what it is. And by the way, that's normally largely down to women choosing to work part-time because they want to be with their kids. How lovely. Yeah. How lovely women get the choice. But the extraordinary thing is, of course, is that actually, according to the National Office of Statistics, you probably know what they're talking about, in 2022, if you're black, whether Caribbean, African, British-born, they earn on average around 6% less now than white employees. That's been consistent for 10 yeasian British employees, earned around 3% more than white employees. So what we've got is a situation where we've got a load of white people. I mean, this is the background, isn't it? A load of white people are massively, massively racist against black people, but they're also massively keen on Asian people because they've got very distinctive racism, and again, it just doesn't make sense. Is it not the case? Again, I think you could explain virtually all of that disparity, not all of it, but virtually all of it, by socioeconomic differences. For instance, you know, again, I'd be very surprised if, for instance, people of African origin, their family of African heritage as opposed to Afro-Caribbean heritage, would not be facing the same issues. Different Asian countries, people from India have much higher, and China, much higher incomes than people from Pakistan or Bangladesh. A lot of this is down to family unit.
Yeah.
Afro-Caribbean kids, 40 or 45%, I think, are in single-parent families, living in poor areas. That's not the case for Asian families at all, and you can see the impact of that in terms of educational achievement. This stuff can be explained by something that is completely irrelevant to race.
Yeah, completely, and it is a social background, a social construct, and also just being able to negotiate pay terms or conditions with your company. And it doesn't matter what your colour or your ethnicity or your gender is. If you have that ability, you will do well. So I think that people need to sort of almost pull themselves up by bootstraps, stop blaming other people.
Exactly, but also to turn up, work hard, do the job.
Absolutely.
I mean, I keep watching shows with people. I don't know what I can do to make my boss happy. I mean, you could turn up on time and not oversleep and just do the job you've been asked to do. I mean, it's some mind-blowing ideas that might catch on one day. I don't know.